welcome to episode 7. This week I have Susan on the show. Welcome, Susan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
For those of you who are familiar with that voice, that's Susan, also known as the Laundry Lady. And before we dive into the successful endeavor, why don't you tell us what you were doing before you started the Laundry Lady?
Yeah, well, I actually had a corporate career in international marketing and business development for about 10 plus years before I started the Laundry Lady. So I was working mostly in Sydney. I worked at Patty Asia Pacific. I worked for Austrade for 8 years. And really, a lot of my career was about helping people in business. And I always kind of had an idea that I wanted to start my own business. I just had no idea what that was going to be.
What was the tipping point you thought now is the right time? And you've got an idea that you felt was one that you could successfully execute.
Yeah, so I became a mum, and I think as a lot of people who've had careers, a lot of women who've had careers and become a mum, they really struggle with their work-life balance about how they're going to, be the mum that they want to be there with their kids, but also maintain the career that they've, spent a lot of time developing. And I was definitely feeling like that. I was really struggling when I returned to work with my little one at home. I did a lot of travel and both both domestically and internationally, and it was just really hard to juggle all of those things. And so my position at Austrade became redundant, and with that redundancy, I just thought, now is the time to create something for myself and work from home and be there with my he was then 3, my son. And so I was literally walking through the house, looking at my spare room and seeing the clothes piled high and thinking, what about a laundry service? Which was so far from what I had been doing. I'd been in a corporate career for so long, and to go into a service-based business was not something I had ever imagined I would do. But I started thinking about how this could work, how I could, the balance that I could have, how I could juggle, doing pickups and around my son. And the idea just started getting really exciting. And so I went out and developed a logo and a website, and I was
Listen,
off and running. And I always kind of had the vision right from the start that it would one day be something I could scale, but I'd never imagined I would scale it to where we're at the moment. But it was really just very much based around, being a new mom and wanting to have flexibility and a business that I could have from home.
I'm not sure I shared with you, but I actually thought about getting into the laundry business 2 years ago. And I was thinking about buying a laundromat because it felt like it's a low risk. Laundromats are very successful businesses. They have a 90+% success rate. And the thoughts soon after were all the fears of things that could go wrong. And that paralyzed me from moving forward. Did you have any hesitations going in? I would be worried when you're describing how will I deal with all the demand and like hiring staff to help you. What things came into your mind and how did you approach it?
Definitely had fears, but I also was in a position where I just didn't really have a lot of time to think about it because I had been made redundant, and
Yeah.
we had literally just built a brand new house and taken
Oh,
the
wow.
keys the day before I took that redundancy. And so it was this bittersweet moment of, I'd finished my career of 8 years. I was moving on to something new, but also our debts really increased at the time. And it was also a really tough time because it was just after the GFC. It was just starting to be felt here in Australia. And I needed to have income. So that was the most important thing. But also, there wasn't a lot of jobs around at that point. A lot of government jobs had ended. A lot of people's budgets were being cut. And so there wasn't a lot of other opportunity for me at that moment in time. So I really just knew I needed to create something and make it work really fast because I needed the money. So whatever I was going to commit to, I just had to commit to 100% and just not worry about all of the fears of, could I even do the laundry? How was I going to be
Mm,
doing the ironing? Like, is it going to drive me mad doing this much ironing and all of these sorts of things? And just work those things out as I went.
yeah.
And, even though it was so different to what I had been doing, I think the flexibility that it gave me to be able to, work around my son was just so valuable to me that I can't even describe how, how like I went from this corporate career to doing laundry and how much I just loved it because I was just so excited to be able to have that kind of flexibility.
Yeah, the autonomy. You were a decision maker. Like all of a sudden, you were able to like shape it into something that worked for you. I am really impressed because so many of the other founders talk about the just go and do it rather than being paralyzed by fear. And often when you're under stress and crises, you end up trying it rather than analyzing it too far before proceeding. So it's very aligned with what we hear. And you've reached a lot of success with this company. You were on Shark Tank in Australia in 2023. You developed your own solution, Time Boss, an AI-driven platform. You won awards in Australia. You're a finalist in the Sunshine Coast Business Awards and Telstra Best of Business Awards. When you started, how did you start this all by yourself? You started it from scratch. So what did you put in place?
Yeah, look, it's been a really long journey because in the beginning, when I did start it, that was back in 2012, and it was just me, and it was very much a sole trader business, and I was just going out, picking up the laundry in my local area, taking it home, seeing what worked, seeing what worked for the customers, how a schedule could work, how what sort of pricing the customers would pay, how I could invoice that, all of those sorts of things. I just had a website and a mobile, and that was it, and I taught myself how to do AdWords, which were much simpler
Oh,
back
wow.
then than
Yes.
they are now. And I
Yeah.
would turn on a few dollars a week in
Ooh.
AdWords when I needed a new customer and turn them off when I got too busy. And that was literally what it was like when I first began. And then I always was just so desperate to scale because I always had this vision that that's what I was going to do. But
Mhm.
I knew I needed some technology to be able to drive that. So it took me about 4 years of going out and doing the laundry myself. And I applied for a digital grant through Queensland government and got a $5,000 grant and went up to
Oh.
my web designer and said, I want this whole Uber system. And my budget is $5,000. And he
So,
kind of laughed at me and said, you're going to need at least 40 grand
oh
and
yeah,
to do any of what you want. And
especially
he
if it's
said, go
custom. Yeah.
exactly, and so I didn't really understand anything about that at that point in time, but he said, "Go and find yourself an off-the-shelf platform,
Yes.
and we'll integrate it
That's
into the
fantastic.
website."
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I really didn't even know what an off-the-shelf platform was, but
Yeah.
I went out and I started Googling and searching all of these different platforms that sort of were around scheduling and payments and looked at tested and tested and tested a heap of them until I found one that I thought could work and could be altered for the locations that we needed. And that platform was Timely, which is built
Yeah.
for salons.
Yeah.
So a lot of beauty
Is it still
salons use
around? I
it.
think it's still around, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we used that platform up until last year when we finally moved to our own. So we actually grew a $6 million
Congratulations.
business using that
Wow.
platform. We had
Incredible.
definitely outgrown it, let me say, but we were still using it up until last year. So that was a really big part of what gave us the opportunity to be able to start to scale. And so I went out and I found my first contractor who I think was a friend of a friend, and she's actually still a laundry lady with us today. And so I grew to about 4 contractors on the Gold Coast, Southeast Queensland, and then to 8. But I'd got divorced during that time, and I had to go back to work full time because I had debts that I needed to clear. And so the business just became this side hustle that I had maybe 2 hours a week to kind of focus on, and really just took a bit of a back seat. And I have to admit, in those years, there were times where I wanted it to go away because I was focused
Mhm.
on my career again, and I didn't know how I was ever going to have enough money to be able to come back to the business full time and start to do all these things. But I guess I was always really driven by the contractors who had joined me, because even with 8 contractors, I knew how much it meant to them to be part of
Yeah.
this business, and so I just always knew I would come back to it eventually. And then COVID hit, and that gave me all the opportunities to
Yeah.
come back to it. And so that was really when we started to scale. So we reformed as a company, and the business, took on a whole new path. And so in the last 4 years, we've grown to 300 laundry ladies and lads right throughout Australia and into New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
And last year we reached 6 million in annual revenue. So it's grown a lot in 4 years.
That's incredible. Really impressive. And also, when you talk about it, it's a very different tone than other entrepreneurs who may have been distracted by a turn of events like being made redundant or a pandemic. You pivoted really quickly and you focused and you executed. What I always hear from small, medium-sized companies, how difficult it is to recruit. You've scaled to a large number of contractors. What strategies did you put in place to find these people? How were you able to grow your team?
Yeah, well, actually, we have focused a lot on Facebook and Google advertising to
Wow.
both attract our contractors as getting our customers. So we
Mhm.
really focused on a bit of a chicken and egg strategy, which I think is what happens in marketplaces. So we would get the contractor and then we would get them customers and then we would repeat and just kept growing in that way. And so that, the strategy was really focused around that digital marketing. But I think
Yeah.
you've got to have a lot more than just being focused on that. And
Yeah.
so for us, it's really been about focusing on our values as a business and really being true to all the values of why I started the business in the beginning, which was because I was a new mum and I wanted to be able to pick my son up from school and drop him
Awesome.
off and not miss sports days and all of those sorts of things. And that's what this business gave me. And so and being true to those values in the way we recruit and is what has attracted our contractors to the business. They're not joining us because they love doing laundry. They're joining us because they also want that flexibility because they're juggling motherhood or they're looking after elderly parents or
Yeah.
looking after sick family members or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
so, that they really resonate with that story. And that's been a really important part of how we have recruited.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think going on Shark Tank has really, really helped us in our recruitment story. So to put it into perspective, we would have maybe 100 leads a week for people interested in joining us. And then after Shark Tank, that went to about 500 per week because um, potential contractors saw our story and got excited about the potential earnings and the whole business model. And so that's been, how we've kind of recruited.
Mhm. And when you talk about all the leads surging, it gives me a bit of anxiety of like how to manage it. So what tools do you have in place to support all this increase in demand in both your service, but also in to join your company? How do you
Yes.
manage this?
Yeah, look, as I said, we were still using an off-the-shelf system timely until last year, which managed really our bookings and our payments. We used Active Campaign to manage our recruitment in a really automated way. And that was something I just built myself. I used
Oh,
the help, and support in platforms like that is really great. And I used it and created this entire pipeline of automation for how contractors could inquire to get information, to be sent video and join the team information, and basically took everything that I was doing in a face-to-face interview online recruitment video before and then put it into an automated process. And that's really helped us to be able to scale faster. And then as we've grown, we've now created our own technology platform. And so when we created that, things like that whole pipeline that we had built in Active Campaign, we were able to build into our platform and manage it all through there. So basically, from when someone first inquires about joining the team, they're in the platform, right through to when they're ready to start taking bookings, and bookings all happen in that platform and all of those things. So that's been a really important way of the way we've grown, is just trying to automate those processes as much as possible at every step. And we still have a long way to go. We've
mhm.
launched our own platform, Time Boss, now, which powers that, but we're still just building more into that all of the time to really streamline and make sure we're operating really efficiently for future scale.
Yeah, incredible. What do you think differentiates you? Have you tested other laundry services, or when you were building this, how were you figuring out the points of differentiation in your offering, but also in the culture that you're having in the company? Because it sounds
Yeah.
incredible about the innovation, but how did you go about differentiating yourself or positioning your offering?
Yeah, look, I definitely at the time was starting to look at things like Uber. Uber was still just very new at that stage in Australia. And, looking at that and how like customer sentiment was really changing to those types of platforms because people want to be able to just, book things very easily and thinking about how there just wasn't any laundry services out there that were easy and that would just come and pick it up and it was all done and it was all easy to pay online and all of those sorts of things. And so that was really the goal to be able to just, help people get their laundry done and save time very quickly and easily because, you don't want to have to drag your laundry somewhere and get that done and, all of those sorts of things. I don't think in the beginning I really had thought about the business customers that we would be servicing, but that became very evident in those first few years that there's actually a lot of businesses in that low to mid volume space places like beauty salons and medical clinics who, don't have the space for a laundry or need their laundry done on a regular basis. And some of the big commercial operators, they don't want to be touching that small to mid, low volume space. And so
Yes.
that's where we really fit in very well. And then I think, as I said about the values, just really remaining true to our values and making sure that's in our brand at every touch point is what attracts people to use our business. We have a really like our model for our contractors is very attractive. It has a very low startup cost, which we're really passionate that we can provide that. There are franchise models out there that cost sixty thousand
Yes.
dollars to set up.
I've been part
Um,
of franchises before.
yeah, and it's we want it. We really believe that we want to be able to get people up and running and earning really quickly
Yeah.
because most people can't afford that kind of outlay, and you're never going to get that money back. And so, we really want to just get them earning, and that's something we've really been able to achieve with the model that we've got. So, yeah, and it's definitely very similar to models like Uber and Uber Eats and Airtasker and all of those types of places. But where I think we differentiate from them is that we are very focused on a very recurring type of service because obviously
Yeah.
laundry is very recurring, never goes away. And
Yes.
so most of our customers, in fact, 80% of our customers actually have a recurring service with us. And what that means is that our contractors have a very sustainable income that's very repetitive. They know, once they sort of build to a certain level, they know that's pretty much where they're going to be earning from their customers. And so that's something that we're really proud of that we can provide within our recurring model.
Yeah. I wish we met 4 months ago because my co-host who helps me with my Airbnb properties, we go through this struggle back then where the house cleaners were taking the laundry back to their own homes to do the laundry, and then they have to find a place to store it in each unit. And then my co-host rented storage, and then they would just store it there. Eventually, he scaled to finding a laundry service to help with this because laundry is continuous, especially in hospitality where my Airbnbs require fresh linens all the time. It's way more efficient to use a service like yours than have our cleaners like take laundry back to their individual homes, clean it, and then bring it back on when they also have
Yeah,
other tasks they need to focus on.
exactly. We service a lot of Airbnb customers and
Nice.
definitely cleaners really like it doesn't fit into their schedule. And
No.
so, that's where we really fit in because they can strip the beds, leave it out, and we'll
Yes.
come and pick it up and bring it back in time for the next customer. And all of our invoicing is online. It's all very set up to be, to work for, someone who might be managing multiple Airbnbs or whatever that is. So, that's where our services come in.
Yes, I totally agree. As a tech guy, I want to ask you more about this piece, which is a constant discussion with many of the startups that I work with, is around building it yourself versus buying it off the shelf. And you mentioned around buying services that because it's cheaper to get started with something like a software as a service where you can pay monthly and use their features. And there's a tipping point where you've mentioned you built your own solution. Tell me more about that journey. When is the right time, or what was the tipping point for you to decide to leave those services off the shelf and build something more custom.
Yeah, I think a lot of founders focus too much on the tech in the beginning and wanting to create the
Mm,
tech and get
yeah.
investment and build this amazing platform before they even know if they can solve the problem.
Yeah.
And for us, we did that completely the opposite way. We were solving the problem first and realizing, how that worked and being able to make changes to that before we were ever thinking about the platform. We definitely it was too long in the off the shelf platform, but that was really driven by a lack of resources to build our own platform, and that comes from bootstrapping. So we have bootstrapped completely this business, had no investment dollars into the business at all, and that's a really hard place to grow from, especially when you're a single mum and have got to pay for food for your family as well. So you can't just, sleep on someone's couch while you're building your business. And so it was a really long journey to be able to even start our technology development. And we always knew we needed it, and also I'm a non-tech founder, so I didn't even know where to start in the beginning. And there were definitely some mistakes. So I did start a build with a developer, and it just didn't work out. And we got a really long way along that. Like we had spent a year
Oh, wow.
creating that, and it just didn't work, didn't do the things that we thought it was going to do. And I had to make a call at the end of that year that we were going to scrap what we had done and start again with someone new. And that was really difficult because we had spent a lot of money. But in hindsight, it was a very good decision. I just knew at the time that my head office team was really struggling with it. And if we were going to go out and promote that to our team of contractors, which at that stage was about 150 of them, and try and train them and get them set up in this platform that didn't work,
Hmm.
I just knew
You'd be
that wasn't
losing
going to
staff.
work for us.
Yeah.
We would have lost, yeah, and it would have been really a big impact on our business. But that's a really hard call to make when you've spent such a long time working on something. But then we found a great developer who has been able to build a really great platform that's based on some really great advanced technology, and build that in a way that we really, needed to be able to grow and scale in the future. And even still, it's not at the stage where I would say it's 100% built. It's still, I feel like, a very much MVP. Even now, it's like we're still, we got it to a stage where we could replace what we were doing, get it operational, and now, we've got a whole new, phase two to build around that. But just getting it live just created so many operational efficiencies for us. For
Sure.
example, just paying our contractors, because they're in a commission structure, which is very different to payroll. Used to take our team 3 full days every week to create that in Excel reports, and it was a nightmare. It was very, very stressful for our team, and now it's literally a click of a button. So it
Great.
was definitely worth getting to that point, but it was a really, really long time in the making, and really that was driven by money. So
Okay.
if you had money, and if we'd had money in the beginning, we would have done it a lot earlier in a different way, but it comes down to money in the end. But now we have an amazing platform called Time Boss, and we're really excited about how it's going to help the future scale of Laundry Lady, but also we're planning to sell it as a B2B SaaS into other
Nice.
industries who might have a model like ours that, are looking for a platform to help, drive them. Because I think there's a lot of businesses out there who aren't focused on tech. And so if we can help them by, giving them this great technology that we've built, then I think, that will be a really amazing thing to be able to do.
That's such a great point. And I think that that's what often happens with startup founders is they think they found an opportunity in the market. And so at the same time, they feel like the problem they're trying to solve is unique and there's no solution to help solve the problem. So they want to build everything from scratch. And I think there's some standard functions in companies that you can leverage off these off the shelf products and then support the things that are unique with these services. And I think it's great that way you're not trying to define your business processes and build a product or the software at the same time. And by the time you're building your custom one, you know how you want to operate your business because you've scaled it. and you know where the pain points in with your current solution to address that while not losing the things that work well. So have you found that experience when
Yeah.
you've, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, by the time we'd come to actually build it, we knew what we needed it to do. So it means we haven't had to throw out as much development as what other businesses might have, because they build something and then go, no, this doesn't work. This, isn't the solution. This isn't what the customer wants, and have to start that again. We haven't really had that because we knew exactly what we needed it to do. We just needed to build it. And so that's, really helped us to build it quite cheaply and effectively in the end. And, and I think there's a fine line between, even for us now, having our own custom platform. Like you said, there's still a lot of other tools that we still use that we could easily build into that platform. But then you've got to really weigh up what the cost of that is to
yeah,
build that versus, some of those things, some of those systems that you can use are only $30 a month. And, and you,
exactly.
you spend all this time and effort trying to build that into your platform when you could be just integrating with that. So, I think we're trying to, really make sure that we at the moment focus on the things that are the most important in terms of developing that. And I think sometimes people get caught up on it being too amazing in the beginning. It's like we still are developing our app. So our customer still goes online to the website to make their booking, which absolutely works fine for our customers, particularly because they have such a recurring nature. But we're still, developing the app part of that, but it doesn't actually affect our operations. It just means that, it's just going to get better and better as we add more of those features in there.
I have a question on you're building your own platform, your own solutions now, and you were bootstrapping for a long time. What was the point where you decided you wanted to raise money or you wanted to go on Shark Tank? What was the driver for you?
Yeah, look, I definitely had a fear of the unknown for a really long time because I'd read a lot. I knew a lot about what companies go through when they're chasing investment, and that it becomes all encompassing and all of those sorts of things. And I definitely felt that, and I felt like I didn't even know where to start, and whether anyone would be interested in investing in my business. And I also knew I'd really need traction before I got to that point. And so I really pushed away from going down that path for as long as I possibly could. And really that just came from fear of the unknown. I think knowing what I know now, maybe I would have started earlier, maybe not. I brought in an operations manager about a year ago, and that really has given me the freedom to be able to move away from those day-to-day operations so that I can focus on raising for investment, which I don't think I could have done it before, because it is all encompassing, and you do need to
It
throw
is.
yourself into a lot for to try and go down that path. So going on Shark Tank, I don't think I was ever really thinking about an investment offer. I was just thinking more about exposure for the business. And, I grew up watching Shark Tank, hadn't been on for a few years. I think it stopped pre-COVID. And then when they announced that it was coming back on, and I saw all the new sharks, and I got really excited. And, we were talking before about just jumping into things before you thought about it too much. And that was definitely the case with Shark Tank. I think I said to my marketing manager, we're applying, and we did a video and then entered that. And before we knew it, I was, flying off to Sydney to film. So it all happened very, very quickly, which was great in hindsight, because it meant I didn't have a lot of time to think about it and start to go, oh my God, what the hell am I doing?
And I see on your website, you have a photo with one of our fellow Canadians, Robert Herjavec.
Yeah, Robert, he was the shark that made the investment offer to us. So it
Nice.
was so exciting to be in there and be in the tank. It was, Jane Lu from Shoko and Catriona Wallace, who's really big in AI, David Fogarty from Woody. Like, it was just the most surreal experience. And I mean, I just don't know how you can't hear my heart beating on the audio, because it was just beating so fast. It was, I'd never pitched before. I'd never
Okay.
actually gone into pitch before. I've done a lot of it now, but I had never done it before. And so the first time on national TV, what
Yeah.
could go wrong? And it was, so terrifying going in there, because you're waiting. waiting around all day, and then you go in and the cameras are all on you, and you've got to listen to this music and stand on this circle for like 2 minutes listening to this music before you can pitch, and then do your pitch, and if you stuff it up, they're going to show that. So, but then when the question started, that was when I actually started to really relax because, I love talking about my business. I know all the answers. I know my numbers. I know all of those things. And so that was really exciting. Very different to what any kind of actual investor
Yeah.
group is like. Even, I've been pitching to a lot of angel groups and even they are not like this. This was super intense and, all the sharks are talking over each other and
Mhm.
going from topic to topic. It's quite intense. But yeah, filmed it and I think it came out pretty well and it was just an amazing exposure for the business. It really just like it's marketing gold and I think it will continue to be marketing gold for us for many years. And that was really the whole goal of going on the show.
Nice. What advice do you have, having been on the show, for others who want to be on that show to prepare? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, look, I think have fun with it, and you obviously want to pitch well, and you want to be prepared for the questions that you're going to get. I think don't be focused on the investment. Forget about that part. Just think about what exposure you're going to get out of this, and what your goal is around that. Whether you know to product businesses, which is a lot of what goes on there, it'll be selling out of the product that you've got, and for businesses like ours, it was definitely recruiting more contractors, getting more customer bookings, and it definitely brought a lot of exposure to that. It also brought a bit of negative exposure in terms of our Facebook account got hacked. So,
Wow.
and our website crashed repeatedly for a week, even though we'd done all of the things that we were meant to do to make sure that didn't happen. It still happened, and the Facebook hacking was definitely a lot to deal with when we were trying to get all this exposure and all of these things. And but yeah, I mean that's all actually good in the long run because it means people are really interested in your business and looking at it. And so being ready for that as much as possible because it does go quite crazy. Like I feel like we're still crazy even a year later after it aired.
Yeah. It sounds like everything's going really well. What are your future plans for the Laundry Lady?
Yeah, well, we're seeking investment at the moment, which will really help, scale and grow the business, just accelerate that growth, both in Australia and New Zealand, as well as looking into international markets. So we're looking at launching into Canada next year
Nice.
and starting to get ready in the US for a future launch as well. And just really building the Laundry Lady as big as we can because I really feel passionate about the business model of what we can give to our contractors who join us. They're earning in Australia, they're earning anywhere between $300 and $3,000 per week. So it's
Oh,
really
wow.
good, sustainable income for them that they can do around their life. And so
Yeah.
I just want to keep growing that part of the business. And we also will be, really looking at growing Time Boss as a B2B SaaS platform for other industries, service industries, contractor models that are similar to ours and helping them grow as well. As I said, my career was always about helping people in business. And so I think that's probably what makes me excited about doing that. And as we've started talking about Time Boss to people, I can see how much value it can add to a lot of businesses because not all businesses are focused in the tech bubble that, we've been in this tech bubble going to all these amazing tech events in the last few months, but most businesses are not focused on that. They're just trying to, get money through the door. And so if we can give them, a platform like that they can use to expand their business model, then I think that will be super exciting.
Tell me a little bit more about Time Boss and what can it do that the other off the shelf services can't do that you've seen on the market? What was your driver
Yeah,
for
so it
building things
covers
that
a
you're
lot.
building?
It covers for customers, it covers all of the booking, online booking and payments. And the payments are very complex, including payments for NDIS customers. So we have a lot of NDI people living with disability through the NDIS and getting paid through the NDIS. For anyone working in that area is super complicated. There's, 3 different people involved. You got to have all these different things in the invoice. and you've got to have service agreements and all of those sorts of things. Our system automate all of that. We also have a lot of location and capacity management built into the system. So, for our model where we have contractors who will service different locations and they have different capacities that they can do and they set their own rosters and schedules, all of that is built into that platform. Right through to the commission payments, as I said before, it saves 3 days every week in terms of
Mm,
managing that. So that, a huge part of it, because obviously paying your contractors is the most important. And then all of the recruitment and onboarding is handled in the system as well, which really streamlines it for people across from the start right through to when they're up and running and working with us. And then it has lots of different tools, boss tools that we like to call them. Things like we have energy monitoring in there, which is quite specific for laundry at the moment. It manages, how much energy a washing machine is using that the contractors can then use in terms of their tax and payments and trying to be more energy efficient. And it also integrates with lots of different tax tools for sole traders and things like that as well. So it's a real end-to-end platform, and we'll be, growing it by adding lots more exciting things in the very near future too.
nice. And for listeners who are part of family offices, work in investment firms, what are you looking for in terms of investors?
Yes, come and chat. Yes, we've been raising for our seed raise at the moment. We're hopefully going to be closing that very soon, but there is still opportunity there. We've been really focused on a lot of angel investors and high net worth individuals. We don't really fit the VC mold in particularly, because most VC molds are looking for a B2B SaaS platform, which we obviously do have with Time Boss, but we're just not quite there yet in terms of pitching that part of the business. But, for the very smart VCs out there, they might see some opportunity in
Yeah.
investing in us in the early stages. And yeah, just we really are looking for investors that can, see the value of what we're doing and want to, be a partner with us as we grow the next few years and hopefully exit in about 8 to 10 years or so. So yeah, it's a really exciting time, and there is definitely a lot of male investors out there and not a lot of female investors, which is really something that we feel quite passionate about, because obviously our brand, we have 90% of our contractors are women. So our brand is very, very focused on females and the support that we can give to females in terms of having this sustainable business income that they can be part of. And so, we'd really like our investment cap table to be very balanced around that. But that is difficult because there isn't a lot of female investors out there. And I definitely hope that one day I can, pay that forward and become an investor myself and invest in women-led businesses. But yeah, so it's definitely an exciting time to be opening up to partners. I have done, the business has been, it was just me. I was the only founder. I've been the CEO. The whole business has just been my business up until this point. So it's really exciting to be able to bring in partnerships into that situation through investment. And I'm really excited for what that means. The future of the business is going to look like, because I've come from those environments where I'm used to having a board and having lots of great input into business growth. So I think that's going to be a really exciting part of our future.
Okay. And for those investors who want to contact you, what's the best way to reach you?
They can DM me on LinkedIn. Is probably the easiest. Just Susan Toft on LinkedIn.
Excellent. We're coming to our final question, and it's throughout your journey, what have you learned that you would like to pass on to aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
Just keep going. It's a really long journey. I think, you go into business thinking all of these things, that it's going to be balance and, all of those things, good earnings and everything like that. And it's not like that at all. It's a really long, dark tunnel in the beginning to get things going, to get things moving, to keep things moving. You're going to run out of money more times than you want to ever admit. You're going to, it's a hard journey. Like, being an entrepreneur is not the easy option. Go and get a, full-time job with a pay slip if you want an easy journey. But if you've got that fire inside you, then you're not going to listen to that, and you're going to go and just keep going. I think because you'll come through tough times, and you come out the other side of that, and then something else tough will come along. But just keep going through it all. That would be my advice.
Nice. And any memorable feedback that you received from your customers along the way that stand out?
Memorable feedback. Look, let me tell you about a really cool customer that we have serviced. So when I first started the Laundry Lady, it was right near movie studios on the Gold Coast, and so we used to do a lot of movies. And one of the first movies we did was San Andreas with The Rock. And
Wow.
so we would see him in his makeup and van getting ready to film. And we also did Pirates of the Caribbean. So we would see Johnny Depp and all of the
Oh,
others
wow.
filming and wash all of their towels and all of those sorts of things. So not so much feedback, but the quite a cool part of the customer journey for us. So yeah, I always love when we hear positive stories from customers about how it's, impacted their world. We have a business customer who was just telling us that, our services save her 4 hours every week that she
Yeah.
can then put back into her business or spending time with her young kids. I mean, 4 hours a week is half a day,
Mhm.
so that's really special that we can achieve that. And also for what we achieve for our contractors, our contractors are always telling us that this is a business model that's really just helped them to be able to, change something in their lives, whether it was having a flexible business model or having that income where they can work from home or whatever it is, then, it's really special to hear those stories from our contractors. That's what keeps us going.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Susan, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Been
Yeah.